making more progress now, yes. Dear, we're making more progress now, yes. Dear, we're making more progress now. Still have a long way to go. They promised to bring us more revenue and quality. Promised to bring us more revenue and quality. Promised to bring us more revenue and quality. Instead is now on its way. Yes, dear.
Everybody, this is Brian O'Haron. I'm glad to be here on a windy day in March, day after my wife's birthday. First thing I'd like to point out to you is that this is the last couple weeks of Bruce Gresyk's, the interim town manager's, time with us here. I'm sure we'll be getting in touch with him again over the months in the future. He's been a big help to us. He's opened up a lot of contacts with us throughout the state and started a lot of things going and resolved a lot of issues. A lot of the things he's doing we can't even talk about now because they're behind the scenes, so to speak, and really helping us out. So we're really thankful to Bruce. He may be in the audience at the next selectman meeting, but I don't think he'll be in the chair. I think our new town manager will be in the chair at the next selectman meeting. I'd like to just quickly go over the agenda. The agenda are comments first, then we'll have notices, then we'll have the selectmen. There was a selectmen meeting last Monday, so we'll review that quickly. It was a very short meeting, 45 minutes, 45 minutes, about 10 minutes of which was taken up by non-business type informational issues. So it was very, very good and very professional. So it's going to be rather short here. Then, before I close tonight, I hope I get to the budget. The new budget is out. Everybody knows what it is. I just want to review it. There's a little trickiness to it this time, so I want to show it to everybody and explain it to everybody so you understand what will be happening here. But and then we'll talk about the Majors Progress Status Report. I did change one thing on there this week for the first time in a long time. I'll talk about that. Major Progress Status Board, the Major Decision Status Board, again, I've added to that. Meeting comments, I'll make some comments about the meeting, and then I'll go into the financial update, which will be mainly about the new budget. And we've got 2 or 3 months here of new budget happening, so it's going to be quite a bit on this program about that. All right, with that, I will put up, I don't have color, unfortunately, on this next slide, a couple slides, because I had some emergency things to do today, and I couldn't get down and pick them up at Staples. They made a goof up yesterday and didn't give me all my slides back, but they're here today. And call to order, informational, proclamation, informational, public comment, informational. Just a lady there from the Schroeder from the Senior Center. I'll talk about that later when I do my comments. The approval of previous minutes, that always happens. That's the first one there. That is policy. Boards and commission report. There were a couple people appointed. One person appointed to a commission board and one person reappointed. The town manager's report, again, was excellent. And I want to say a little bit about this now. I'm going to talk more about it later. But the town manager is really in the seat here. And he's going to have a nice handover to the new town manager. But it's kind of the way I always told you it would go if we could ever get this town manager into a position of authority. You know, he isn't totally in authority. Not in authority like, say, the mayor is in Torrington or in other cities, but he's at the best he can probably do in this. He's got a good, strong, at least 2/3 of the board is strong, the selectmen, and he's got some help even from the other people in the selectmen group, and they're delegating to him, and he has the authority, and he's getting a lot done between meetings, a lot of things done. Therefore, the meetings are shorter, because when he comes to the meeting, he has the facts, he has the answers, he knows what he's doing, he presents the stuff. So, and he's now starting to look into future things, more what I consider to be the revenue aspects of things. So he's really made a lot of progress in a short period of time. There was some doubters in the beginning about it, but that disappeared rather quickly when people saw him in action. He has gotten a lot done, and I thank Bruce Gresyk for the time he spent with us, for getting here immediately when he was needed, and staying an extra month to help us until we got the new town manager up. So thank you, Bruce. Then there was a little talk about not the Pearson oil tank, but the other two schools, because some work has to be done on the little oil lead lines to the tanks in the other two schools. So that was talked about. We'll go over that later. The Senior Citizen and Disabled Persons Tax Relief Fund was adopted, and it needs to go now through a public hearing, which has to be published and and all that. So it's still a few months away, but it's on its way to us. Sale of the property on East Wakefield Boulevard. All these are policy except for the town manager report, which is never policy. There's sale of property. The first sale of property. Let's see if I can get back there again. The first sale of property was on East Wakefield Boulevard. Somebody wants to buy some lots from the town there. The second one, sale of property on Gilbert Avenue. Somebody wants to buy a lot or two from the town there. And then there's somebody wants on Jewel Road wants to donate some property to the town. So that was talked about. Those are policy issues. Then there's a non-policy issue, vision appraisal update. That's an informational thing that was done by Selectman Liskin, and a public comment from a person, and the public comment went through 3, maybe 4 minutes of that, discussing the appraisal inequities. And then the refunds recommended by the tax collector, which we see every once in a while there. And then the Pearson School elevator, they didn't really get to talk about that because the information that was promised to them by the meeting didn't get there, so they had to table that. It's one of the few times I think they had to table a couple things at this meeting, and that's very unusual for them. And you'll see when we go into the next slide here, you can see that for once in a very, very long time, unfinished business, nothing was talked about. That's policy. It's kind of the same last meeting, I think, too, if I remember correctly. And then new business, nothing was talked about. So a lot of things are getting done outside of the meeting, during the week, by the town manager and some of the selectmen at least, and things are really moving in the right direction. It's only been 4 months now, and a lot what I would call the procedural issue has really, really improved. Some people think perhaps it hasn't improved. Maybe it's gone backwards because we don't do as much process as we used to do. But those, again, as I point out to you, are more bureaucratic type approaches than business approaches. And we're trying to get away from bureaucratic approaches, and we're trying to get things done and move things fast, because as you'll see when we go into the budget part of the program, we still we're in trouble financially, and we need a lot of work, and it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money until we get a lot of revenue in town, which is probably 3 to 5 years away, in my opinion. I was hoping it would be closer than that, but it doesn't seem to be moving fast enough at the speed we need it to move. So that's that. Now, the major status, I do have the colors on there. And I did change one, and that was I put red on delegate the authority for line manager to make plan and plan decisions 95% of the time, because I think now there's a lot better delegation happening. There is still some micromanagement attempt once in a while, as I mentioned on the show, but normally now the town manager's in the seat. He's doing the job that he's supposed to be doing. That means there's less work for the selectmen to do, and sometimes they get a little bored and they want to ask questions that perhaps they shouldn't be asking, and they want to start to micromanage, and they're going to have to learn not to do that. That's a discipline that they will learn over time. Some are better at it than others, as you can see when you watch the programs yourself. So that's what I changed there. Same, budget process is coming up now, so maybe we'll start to get into some of these yellow ones, but I don't think that's going to happen for a while. Matter of fact, I'm a little worried it might not happen quick enough for my liking, okay? So now I'm going to just put up this first one on my list of policy decisions, and then I'll skip through a bunch of pages and get to the ones that were at the last meeting. Tax deferral for elderly, that's moving along, still blue, because it isn't final. That's a couple months away before they have the public hearing and make it official. So that'll happen, and it looks like it's going to happen now. I don't think anybody's going to turn that down at the public hearing. Lambert K. joint plan. Nobody reported on that this week, but that's still happening. Lambert K's out trying to get information from the Environmental Protection Agency so they can see how much it's going to cost them to finish cleaning the property there. So that'll get back to us. So now I'm just going to skip ahead 4 or 5 slides here and talk about the things that happened this week. Because all the rest are red. If I had any blue ones there, I'd show them to you, but these things are getting done, and there aren't very many blue ones anymore on these. We're up to quite a few. The number now we're up to is, let's see, we're up to number 86 now. So the appointed on the board's commission, again, I didn't go far enough on this. I don't know why I don't go far enough. I got too many lines, I think. A little slow. Okay, here we go. It's one slide off. There we go. Vote to appoint Lois Clough to the Recreation Board. Again, I got this right from the minutes. I get the minutes after the meeting, a couple of days after the meeting. They're very good at getting the minutes of the meetings out right away in the town clerk's office. So I thank Cheryl for that this week. And they voted to appoint Lois Clough. Now, she had been trying for many, many years to get onto this Recreation Board, at least the last year or two, and she couldn't make it. But this time she made it, and the vote was yes, 5, no, 1, and abstain, 1. So that was that. And then there was a vote to reappoint Neil Kelsey to the Housing Authority effective May 1st. His present appointment doesn't get up till May 1st, and they wanted to take care of it because there's a lot of budget work coming up now, and this just clears the way to get this done. Now, I want to say that they did appoint him unanimously, so that's there, that's done. Now, I want to point out here, though, we went through the same little razzmatazz we usually go through when somebody brings up a name. Instead of pulling out a list from their pocket, you know, they say, well, we didn't have the information quick enough, we got the minutes late. If you have a list in your pocket for each commission of who you want to appoint, it doesn't matter what happens. When somebody brings up, hey, there's a reappointment, you bring out the list, you give it out, and you got it made. You'll have it. Now, if somebody were to put $1 million prize on having a list of appointments names in your back pocket, and those who had them won the $1 million, they'd get those lists quick, and they'd have them in their back pocket. Now, we have to try to get it to happen without giving out $1 million, because we don't have $1 million. But anyway, that's that one. And that wasn't even too bad, but it was one of the weaker moments of the meeting here. Continue the oil tank fill pipe replacement plan for Hinsdale and Bachelor schools. What happened there was when we got off our $20,000 possible fine for Pearson oil tank not being changed quick enough over the years, the state said, pretty sure it's the state, sometimes it's others, but they said that we had some poor feed lines in at the other 2 schools, and they would like us to clean those up, which we committed to do. So they're moving along on that, and they're trying to get ahead of the game there so they don't get fined on that. But no action was taken on this one this week, according to the minutes. Vote to adopt the proposed change to ordinance section 185 is amended to the required publication. That's for the senior center stuff that we talked about. That was done unanimously. Vote to refer the sale of the property on East Wakefield Boulevard, lots 29 to 34, to planning and zoning for their recommendation. What happens now when somebody wants to buy property, it goes to the selectmen. If they determine they want to try to sell the property, or at least consider selling the property, they send it off to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning then says, yes, we recommend you sell it, or for these reasons we recommend you don't sell it. And then it goes back to the selectmen, who have the option of selling it anyway. I mean, many times they'll take the recommendation from the planning and zoning, especially if they agree with it. If they don't, and they have good reason to think that they don't want to agree with it, then they'll go ahead and sell the property anyway. Then it has to go to a town meeting, 30 days in the future, be published and all that. So that's that. That went for a vote of yes, 6 yes, 1 opposed, Selectman Perez. For recommendation to refer the sale of property at 206 Gilbert Avenue, Lot 6, to planning and zoning. Similar thing, somebody wants to buy those lots, off it goes to planning and zoning. It'll come back after they make their recommendation. The selectmen will make their decision, and then if they want to sell it, they will put it out to public hearing. People will show up and vote one way or the other, and that vote is we'll tell whether we sell the property or not. It's usually neighbors who want to buy these properties. They want to add them to the property they have already, you know, to make their lots bigger and be able to maybe build a garage or whatever on there. There's also a very minority of people who would rather see it not be built on, and we've talked about this in previous meetings, but I think the majority of the town, providing that we know that it's not going to do any damage, will probably vote to sell it. Now, the donation of the property, there's somebody who wants to donate some property right next to some property that the town owns already, and that property was talked about and discussed a bit about, and that was tabled for till the next meeting, so the town can look into it, make sure it's not contaminated or has any serious problems to it, and then if they're convinced of that, then they'll look whatever procedure they have to go through to buy it. Then they can attach it to the lots they have already, and once they attach it to the lots they have already, then they have the option of selling a bigger piece of parcel that somebody can build a home on and enjoy that. Now, I always say on this program that I'm in favor of building on these properties because a lot of people, and especially young people, want to be able to come and enjoy the lake just as much as the people who already live here, many of them in cramped space already. So I like to see that happen. I like to see the youth at the lake. I like to see people get in and parcels built. And of course, we don't want to see the lake ruined either. Everybody wants a balance in all these things. And my own personal view is there is a balance. And things are really improving around the lake. People do take good care of their property, and you'll always find the exception, of course, anywhere you go. But in general, people really want to take care of these properties. They don't want to ruin the lake in any way. So anyway, that Jewel is tabled for next week until we can get some more information on the land. I think some of the selectmen want to go out and look at it and things like that. And they also, some of the selectmen want to look and see if it's possible for it to be donated to the land trust, and that's okay too. If they talk somebody into donating it to the land trust, that's it's up to them to be able to do that. But of course, that'll have to be done before it's voted upon. And then the next thing was donate the property, vote to refund recommended by the collector of revenue. This is usually just a few $100s or $1,000 or something that they have to give back to somebody because they got the revenue in to more than they expected, and that was unanimous vote. That usually gets voted positively unanimously when they have one, which looks like it happens every 2 or 3 meetings. Next is vote to table the person's school elevator until information is received. And that's got to come from the Board of Education, not the Board of Education, but their financial director, John Torek. Well, for some reason or other didn't get there in time. Okay, so that's it. Again, their colors red, complete, blue in process, yellow, not yet started. On here, most of them are red, a couple of them are blue. Policy, wonderful policy meeting. I think this was the best policy meeting we've had in the last 10 meetings since the new administration, and It was all policy. There was one table. We're now up to 88 and 23. 10 of these, of which are the town manager, that'll never be policy anyway, so it's pretty good score. And then business-like, again, I think this is one of the better, by all 7 selectmen, one of the better business-like meetings that I've ever seen since I've been here. Getting better all the time, and this week was excellent as far as business-like was concerned, and everybody's to be thanked for that. Okay, now as far as the meeting comments are concerned, I'm going to try to get through these pretty quickly because I want to talk more about the budget. But Bruce Grezyk's final meeting as the interim town manager, and as I said before, thank you, Bruce, and we'll be seeing you from time to time, I'm sure. I'm sure you can be a big help to this community as even just a phone call now and then as a friend. Thank you very much. The new town manager, Keith J. Robbins, the former first selectman of Basra, will begin at the end of the month. I don't know exactly where Basra is, but people tell me it's a couple thousand people, and it has a huge chicken farm there. I think they told me it was like 10,000 chickens, and very successful. They sell the chickens, of course, under different brand names, so eggs and, I guess mainly the eggs is what they sell, but we all probably buy eggs from that area and don't even know about it, but he was the first selectman there. He's got a lot of experience dealing around the state in the political environment, and I'm told that he's an electrician. I don't know if he's in his own electrician business or he works for other people, but he does have to get out and work with customers and deal with customers, and I think that's a big help here. I have been sitting in the budget meetings that have been going on. Nobody goes. I mean, there's only 2 or 3 people there to observe at each meeting, and the press, while the selectmen go over the budget and review it with the town people. And you can see when the selectmen review it, which ones have the business experience and which ones don't, because some of them, they don't ask the right kind of questions. You can tell that they don't have the experience dealing with the unions, dealing with the kind of issues, overtime issues and other issues that we have in this community. Of course, the businessmen all deal with that every day, and they know what it's like. So they have a pretty good feel for when you cut a budget, how it will affect others and how it affect relations with unions and things like that. So anyway, thanks for coming here, Keith. And next time I'll try to get his picture put up here on the board so you can all see what he looks like. So when you go down to town hall, you can say hello, shake his hand, and I'm sure he'll have an open door policy, much like Bruce had, be able to get in there and talk to this town manager. He's off to a more rolling start than Bruce was, so I'm hoping that he can get a lot more accomplished too in a very short period of time. He's got a tough period to go through, the budget period over the next 3 or 4 months, so I wish him well there, coming up to speed. The meeting on March 17th was very professional, the best to date in my opinion, and was only about 45 minutes long, minus 10 minutes for a proclamation. There was there was St. Patrick's Day, so I had the mayor for the day there, things like that. Right. An executive session was scheduled because Bruce is leaving. He wanted to have an executive session with the rest of the selectmen to go over some personnel issues, and he did. I guess they had that. It was scheduled for 6:30 on March 19th. I think that they had that yesterday. Okay, appointments were made to the Rec Board and Housing Authority. I already mentioned that to you. 2 properties were forwarded to Planning and Zoning for recommendations. They'll be back within a month or so. 1 property was offered to the town free, and the property will be reviewed. It's especially important because it already joins a few parcels that we own already, so it can expand our capability there to maybe get some more money on the tax rolls. And this tax roll thing is a bit like everything else in life. Every little bit counts. If you get one lot, somebody build a house and put it on a tax roll, somebody else build a house and put it on a tax roll, somebody else put it on a tax roll, then someday you'll have 100 of them on the tax roll. But they're not all going to come 100 at one time. That's a little more difficult to do. So we got to take advantage of every opportunity we have there. The town manager's report was very fruitful, as I already mentioned. I'm going to go over a little bit of that now. The sewage problems we had, you probably said in all the newspapers in the Colt building, are resolved and no known issues were known at the time of the meeting. Whether anything came up after that or not, I don't know. I didn't see anything in the paper about it. But the building was also discussed with representatives of the Rural Development Agency. I'm pretty sure I got the right initials there, USDA, and this David Tittle, who I guess works for or was appointed for the New England area by the President of the United States, was in town with some staff. He visited Winston, and he said some very positive things while I was here, and Bruce did say so at the meeting. So I'm just going to kind of repeat it, because this is kind of future type stuff and things we can do to help improve the town, and it's good to see Bruce working on that as diligently he is, especially while he's trying to deal with the budget. But they agree with the local housing authority, Red Newman, that this building may be a good possibility for a grant and redevelopment once the dust settles. Now, this was mentioned by Selectman Rinzullo a few meetings ago, that, hey, maybe we can look at that and turn it into one of these affordable housing or some version of that. And, I'm just paraphrasing here. I'm not sure about all these agencies are, but maybe that could happen. Now, personally, I'd rather see it get on the tax rolls. I'd rather see somebody buy it who is an entrepreneur, clean it all up, get it in shape, pay taxes on it. And if the housing authority pays taxes, that's good. If they don't, then I'd rather see it go in a different direction. So I'm not quite sure about, I'm not expert on that, so I don't know. But the USDA and the town's grant expert think that Winston may be a good candidate for grant money to help improve downtown, this whole downtown area around Willow Street, all the way along Willow Street, and its environment, by combining properties where possible and practical along the river, along Willow Street, with private and public capital. He thought that this was exciting news for our town. So they are interested, these people that came to town and the grant writer, in trying to see if we can put some kind of a plan together. Now, when they talked about that, there was the interim town manager mentioned that he's already, I've done this too, he's already gone and looked at a lot of the plans that were put together over the last 10 or 15 years by the development group and a commission, and by other people in town, Friends of Main Street and people like that, and there are a lot of good plans there. And earlier when I was looking at them, you know, I don't know, a little less than a year ago, everybody told me, hey, we got a lot of plans. We probably got 20 or 30 plans around here, and they're usually pretty good plans, but we don't have any money to implement any of them, okay? So Bruce has said he's looked at the plans recently in the last week or two. He thinks we've got good plans. He thinks they're pretty impressive, and he thinks that we ought to be looking more at getting moving on that. So he was very positive about the plans and about our ability to do something with the plans and get some money here over the long run. Next, we instructed the town council, that should be council, I spelled it wrong, the attorney, to move forward on a plan to mitigate problems with the oil tank supply lines at both Bachelor and Hinsdale School, as the state has recommended. So that's moving ahead. They also are moving ahead, as I said earlier, on the citizen and people with disabilities tax relief. So that's moving ahead now, and I think you'll see in a couple months that'll probably be approved. There was some discussion on the revaluation, but no action was taken. People are unhappy with the revaluation, especially people that got the extremely high revaluations, because they claimed that the state had an average of 6% and we had an average of 46%. So they're questioning that, and but no action was taken on that. And then the Pearson School elevator was tabled due to a lack of information. Didn't get there in time. And then there was no unfinished business discussed and no new business. Okay, now, having gone through that, I want to now say that you've got to pay attention here now. This is a very important time to pay attention, because we're going to be talking about the new budget. Now, in the past, over the months, I've been telling you we had a high upward pressure, anywhere between 9 and 13% or so upward pressure on this year's 208-209 tax plan, all right, for taxes, property taxes. And we've talked about that ever since I began this program. Matter of fact, that's one of the many reasons I began this program, because we had a possibility of paying a lot of money for a bond issue. Now, these selectmen have saved us from that, so we won't have to worry about that for a while. We had this huge evaluation, which we knew was going to be huge, because over the last 5 years, if you subtract maybe the last year or so, a lot of houses here sold for, and lots sold for pretty high prices. So we knew we're going to be, some people in town were going to be in for a blessing there because they're going to get less taxes, but there were a lot of people who are going to get pretty hefty tax increases as well. And the average property in town on reval did go up about 46%. So, and some, as I said earlier, went up 200, 100, 150, 300, percent. Those people will pay more taxes, quite considerably more taxes. Other people went down. They were below the 40, they'll pay a little less tax. And the mill rate has dropped. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. It's dropping. Nothing's finished here. Okay, so what I want to say now is, to start with, that we have now, from the town and from the school, the first rudimentary projections of the 2008-2009 budget. And as you know by charter, they have to have that ready by March 15th in every year. And they have to take and give it to the selectmen. Once they give it to the selectmen, it goes through a process to get to the town referendum a few months later. And I don't have the dates here right now because I want to concentrate on the amounts right now, not on the dates. But the selectmen received the budget on Monday, on the 17th of March, and then they scheduled 3 meetings, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Today's Thursday. There was a meeting on Tuesday night where they reviewed the police budget, and they reviewed several other budgets, and they talked to the police chief and other people who ran their departments, and they went through each item. The meeting lasted for 3 hours. My view, it should have lasted half an hour, but it lasted 3 hours. It was very cordial. The press was there and reported on it, and it happened. The next night, Wednesday night, there was another meeting. That lasted about an hour and a half, maybe a little longer. Also a cordial meeting, and they went through other budgets. They went through the planning and zoning budget, the fire department, Winchester Fire Department budget, and they went through several others. They went through, about an hour and a half's worth. Now, several of the people, they also went through the Public Works budget, which probably took longer than anything because that has a lot of entries in it. So, and there were questions asked, and there were some misunderstandings, but that all got squared away. So then there were some people who weren't there because they were absent from town or ill or whatever, and they'll be caught up. Now tonight, while you're watching this program, there will be another meeting in the town hall. Public's invited to all these meetings. Nobody ever shows up except 1 or 2 people, and I'm one of them. But they will be going over the rest of them tonight. Next week, they will be going over the budget with the Education Department, the Board of Education. That should be an interesting meeting. It's open to the public. It'll probably be at Pearson. I don't know exactly which day it's going to be on, but you can check at the town hall, town clerk, and they'll tell you when this meeting is going to be and where. It's usually about 7 o'clock. Maybe it'll be on Tuesday, and maybe because that's normally when the Board of Education has their meetings at Pearson, and maybe it won't be. So if you're interested in it, which you think you're probably not, but if you are, go ahead and call up the town hall and find out when it is, and go there, and maybe you'll have the opportunity to speak there. The last 2 meetings, they didn't ask for any public comment, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't accept it if somebody had a question or 2. But anyway, the proposed budget, this year's budget is $31,982,334. That's what our whole town budget is this year. The proposed budget for 08 and 09 is $33,191,930. So that's a difference of $1,209,596. Now, in itself, it doesn't look too bad. The budget has gone up by a little over $1 million there, $1,209,596, or 3.78%. That's just about inflation. That's about inflation. There are some reports now that I'm reading that the inflation for last year was more like 4.2%, including gas and food and everything, rather than the normal 3.5 we've been averaging for many years. So, and I mentioned on the last program that there are a lot of things in our lives that have gone up 10%, 20%, 30%. Some of the packages that we have for health care for our personnel in town has gone up 19% this year, for next year's budget, 19%. That's why you hear people like Mr. Pozo and others always challenging people about these medical plans, because they can go up 10, 20, 30% a year. Now, most of our employees in the Board of Education, they all have contracts with union contracts and all, so you can't just go in there and raise things. You have to negotiate them, and that takes many years to accomplish, and you got to do a little at a time. So when compared to industry, they say, well, industry can do it overnight, but they don't do it overnight either. But they have much more latitude to do that kind of thing. But and you have to remember, if you do put up people's health plans, then you got to consider their salary too, because they have to have money to pay for these health plans one way or the other. Nothing's free, as you know. So what we did is we're about inflation right here on this. Now, that is the good news. Now I'm going to tell you what the bad news is, and all these numbers come from Town Hall. They're not Brian's numbers now. They're now Town Hall numbers. And what I'm going to do each week is try to give you an idea along the way as to how we're proceeding towards the town meeting and the referendum, which we're lucky to have in this town. So that the taxpayers, if they pay attention, get the last say here. Now, of course, I guess we got about 6,000 voters in this town, but only 1,000 or 2,000, I think, vote in these elections. Maybe 3 at the most, 2.5. So one of my objectives is to try to educate people enough via this program and any other way I can to try to get people to vote, one way or the other. Where they vote their own conscience, but they should have facts and information so that they can vote intelligently and for whichever way they want to do. So everybody in town has a chance to question the budget. Everybody in town has a chance to, the budget, I have the budget right here. Anybody can get this from the town hall, and it's a copy of the budget. And you can see the breakdown by every department for every category, and you yourself can see where we're spending the money and how we're spending the money, and you can question it at the town hall with the town manager if you want to. Okay, so what's happened here is that the people in the departments have put together their budgets like they do every year, and then the town manager has reviewed these budgets, and the same's happened over in the Board of Education, and then with the superintendent of schools, and then they see what they manage back or add to the departmental heads' budgets. Sometimes they might take some money away from them because they don't think they need that much, or they don't want to spend the money that way, or in some cases they might give them a little more money. Say, hey, you under budgeted that. Your past history shows that you need another 10,000 or 20,000 or whatever for sand and salt or something like that, so you better put more in your budget. So some budgets do get expanded by the town manager. And sometimes the department heads, because of the rough times they've had in the past with the taxpayers and the voters, is they tend to hedge sometimes on their budgets. Now, I can say one thing. I'm sitting through the meetings. Not many other people are, so pardon me. I can tell you that these budgets are pretty tight budgets. You can't drive a truck through these budgets. Right? You can make some decisions that will manage these budgets back, but there's not like wild spending going on around here. Now anybody can always question whether you need 1 more policeman or 2 less, or 1 more police car or 2 less. Anybody else can question whether you got too many people in the Public Works Department or too few people in the Public Works, or too few policemen, or too few hours of overtime. I mean, everybody has questions on these, but best thing to do is get in there and understand why things are the way they are, and then you become to believe more like the police chief, and you come to believe more like a public works director, because it's tough to sit in their chair and be asked all the time for services and then not get the money to do those services. So we really need to pay attention here. So I advise you to all get down, and anybody who's interested, especially if you feel strongly that things can go through this budget. It's very, very sobering to do so because a lot of things that you think can be improved upon is pretty tough pretty tough when you're in there to do that. I'm not saying it's impossible. You know, all things can be improved. But you can also goof things up too by cutting out too much money. So we all want responsible spending, and we want responsible taxes. So that's what I'm trying to do, is give you the information to help you in that respect. Now for the bad news. The bad news is that even though this only went up 3.78%, a lot of our revenues went down. You know the word revenue. We talk about revenue a lot here, okay? So because the revenues went down, we're going to have a higher nut to crack. And guess what? It's going to be, I got a couple more slides before I get to it, but it's going to be more, I think do I have a slide out of place here? No. Oh, all I'm doing here is on the expenditures, I'm showing you how we got to that 1,209,598 on that preceding page. So this isn't the bad news yet. We still have another 2 slides for that. So we said it would be 1,209,596, and this came right from the financial director in the town manager's report. The debt will be 278. That's less than I had projected. I thought it was going to be 430 or 40,000. That's for school debt and the debt from the 206 bond issue. But it turned out to be only 278,800 because we haven't done a lot of the work on the 206 bond issue yet. Therefore, we haven't had to start paying that debt. So later, you're going to find next year that we will pick up that debt if we do the work. So it's 278 here instead of that bigger number that I had. That's a combined school and 206 bond issue. And for all I know, there might be a couple other marbles in here too that that I didn't look at that close. But now the town side, if you exclude capital, the town side went up 562,753. That's more than I thought it would go up because I was planning on the 3% that the selectmen had told the town manager to try to manage within. And he said quite early on that it was going to be very difficult, if at all practical. There was an article in the paper about that, saying that it was an unrealistic goal. We've talked in the past about goals on this program, so I won't go into it now. But basically, they came in at 562,753 increase. And then the school, they got a whopping 8% or so, 1,588,831. So they add up here. When you also have to add in the capital. So you have a minus sign there. The capital went down. And the reason the capital went down is because, to the best of my knowledge, the reason the capital went down a whopping number like that is because when I was showing you the upwards pressures in the past few months, I always told you that we had the second phase of the Main Street project to do, and we had planned it in last year's budget. Well, it didn't get done last year. This year we're in now, 207, 208. So that money, that revenue that we were going to get from the state, $1,040,000 or whatever it was, that was, we didn't get it. We're not getting it. It's not in this year's budget. So that's gone into what I call limbo. It's some account that Henry Centrella, the finance director, has where it's appropriated, and until we go to spend it, it won't show up here. And then when we're certain, the next time we do a budget, if we're certain we're going to spend it, maybe it'll show up again, maybe it won't. I don't know all the particulars there. But anyway, so and they also, the STEEP grant, there was $490 or so there. So some of that got done, I guess some of it didn't. So the whole minus number here is 1,220,788. So these positive numbers and this negative number in our budgets brings us down here. Now, the other thing I want to say on both of these slides is, well, this doesn't include any of these OCR work that the school building committee wants to do. That has not been included in these numbers yet. So that will either be a bond issue, or over the next month or two, it'll be included in these numbers, and they will go higher or they will go lower, depending upon what happens. So if we just take this now, this is what I said earlier, that would be, according to a new mill. A new mill is the mill that we think we're going to have. It will be adjusted before we get to the referendum, but right now it looks like
a mill is $823,000. $823,500. That's what a new mill is. Remember, the last mill was $588 and $80, $588,080 or so, give or take 10. So we've gone from 588 up to this number 823 because the reval went up so high. So we got that new number. That's what a mill is worth today. It's no longer worth $588,080. And one mill, if you do the division, which I show in the later papers, is 4.08%. That's what a mill is. Last year, a mill was 2.92% of the mill rate. But the mill rate has gone down now, so a mill is now higher. It's 4.08% of the 24.47 mills that we got as a result of reval. Now, in a few weeks, I hope to talk about I had a mathematician take a look at the mill rate, and he came up with Sean Miller. He's down at the university all the time, and I talked to him. He's a friend of mine, a son of a schoolmate of mine from high school, and he worked out the numbers, and he produced a table, the formula and a table about how to calculate the new mill rate when a revaluation happens and the values go up, the grand list goes up, how to calculate what the mill rate will be. Henry has a way to do it over in the finance director's shop. This is just the mathematical formula for it, and there is a table. Anybody wants a copy can get it from either me or from the finance director in the city hall. I gave him a copy of this. All right, but if we take the new mills, this is equivalent to about 1.47 new mills, and that is roughly 6% increase, roughly. All right. So that's where we stand there. But this isn't really what's going to happen because of the drop in the capital, this minus sign here. So basically, however, because of revenue reduction from this year, for the reasons I told you about, we're going to have a different set of numbers. And I got these right from the finance director and the town manager. These are what we needed for taxes. This is what we need from the grand list for taxes. So now we're going to be talking about a much higher number here. And these are the reasons for it. When we go to calculate how much money we need from taxes to meet the budget, we have to take many things into consideration. That's one of the reasons why they could never give you the new mill rate until they get through the referendum. Because until we get through the referendum, we won't have all the information we need. But we're much closer to that now, because this mill rate had to be prepared by the finance director by March 15th to go with this budget, so everybody can look at the whole situation and know how it's going to impact them when they vote at the referendum. And so the selectmen can look at it, and the town manager and the superintendent of schools to see how they can manage this back. Now, I can pretty well say right now, this will be managed back, so don't anybody have a heart attack when I go through these numbers. I don't know how far they'll be managed back. I don't know what they'll end up at. I'm watching it very closely, making my suggestions wherever I can get a word in edgewise, and you'll see it happen over the next few months. And I'll keep you up to date on the program. I'm sure the newspapers will keep you up to date every day. So if you read the newspapers, you'll see it there. You can watch the selected meetings. You might get some idea, or you can watch this program or any other program. We'll probably be talking about it. So number one, we need to know the town debt, and the town debt. In order to we need enough money from taxes to pay $578,452 of debt this year. That's how much we need. Okay, and we need $7,645,629 from taxes from me and you. We need that money to get through the next year if this budget stays the way it is now, right? And nothing has changed, which is unlikely. As for town expense money, not capital, we need, from school expense, we need $13,266,501,000. We need that to get through the year. We need to get that from people in the tax base to pay for school expense that won't be paid for by state grants and state money and things like that. So we're moving in that direction, and that's what we need. And then we need school debt we have here, $118,631. This is the wind down of a 20-year or whatever school debt we had. It gets less each year, and it'll go away, I think, next year, but I'm not positive about that. But this year it's $118,000, a little less than it was last year. So this has gone in the right direction, but it's still there. And it was part of that 430 or 40 I had up in my upwards pressures. And then the capital net, we need, in order to pay for capital things we're going to do over this year, the capital things that are in the budget to be done, that's $814,353. So those are the numbers. This is the money that we have to get. That's capital net from taxes. Now, we need to collect also, we also have people who haven't paid their taxes. So that's $425,000. And that has to be factored in. And then interest and lien fees are $225,000. So that is factored in. If you want to know more about that, see the finance director. That's about as much as I can tell you. But, we don't collect 100% of our taxes every year. Torrington does, because they pay a man, and he gives them the $100,000, and it's up the 100%, and it's up to him to go collect it. I'm not saying that's a better system. I'm just saying it's a different system. And but the town does get their money so sometimes he might not, but the town will get their 100%. It's a little easier to go and know what you're going to do. So this is where you hear the big argument. Shall we figure on collecting 97% of the taxes, 96, 98, 99? Every year we hear that. We'll probably hear it again this year. Now, so that means 208, 209. Money needed from taxes, 22,954, 935. Last year, how much we needed from taxes was 20,451, 276. So the difference is not the 1 million you saw earlier in the program, but 2,503,659. That's how much we need from taxes this year. Now, 1 mill, as I said earlier, one new mill, I call it a new mill. It'll be called the mill once we get through the referendum and we get the budget agreed. But right now, it's the new mill, and it's 823,500. And that could change a little if there are a lot of people who made appeals on their taxes. If they're given less taxes, then this could minimally change. It won't change a great deal, but it could change. So I put a little formula here, and I said, okay, you take the number that I just told you on the last page, 2,503,659, you divide by 823,500, which is the mill, how much a mill's worth, and you end up with 3.04. And then the town has like 0.10 on it because they don't think they collect 100% of the taxes, so they put a little fudge factor in there. They do it a little more, a little better than I did it here. But and that's for those to compensate for those who don't pay their taxes on time, right? And they will have to pay, as I said last week, 18% if they're late on paying their taxes. Either that or go bankrupt or whatever. But one way or another, of course, the town puts a lien on their property until they get the tax money. So that equals, when you figure that out, it's 3.14. When you add this 1.10 onto here, you get 3.14 new mills. And remember, the new mill rate after evaluation at this time, it could change still before the referendum, is 24.47. So, and now, I hope you're all sitting down now and you got your seatbelts on, because I'm going to give you the next number, and that is a little formula for calculating the percentage that is. So you got 24.47 plus 3.14. This is what the new revaluation mill rate is. This is how much it's increasing because of the $2.5 million we need from taxes. Equals 27.61 mills. That equals, when you do the division by the 4.08, you've got, well, when you do the multiplication by the 1.8, you've got 12.83%. So 12.83% of a tax increase, if everything stopped today and this budget got approved today, will be about 12.83% tax increase for every single person that owns property in this town, right? And I put the difference here so you could see between the first group and the second group, about 1.67 mills. And these all numbers are unofficial, an approximate. So now I want to spend a little of the time I have left. I don't have much time left, but I want to say that these people in town have put together a considered budget. It's a tough budget, and it reflects the fact that we're poor and that we don't have any money, and that people are watching. The people in town that run the town and the schools are very, very concerned about getting this thing through the referendum. So I think you're going to see plenty of changes here. So don't get excited until we see how it goes. But I figure it's best to get you the information, make you aware, get you so you read the papers, you look at and you pay attention to this, and maybe even make some good suggestions how we can better do things, okay? This number we're going to watch over the next 3 months. We'll see what it comes down to. My own view is they'll never get that through a referendum. It won't happen, right? So, and I think a lot of people agree with that. I think that. But it just, to me, reemphasizes to all of you out there that we need to pay more attention to getting revenue, getting our tax advantageous revenue up, our profitable revenue up. And I can tell you, there's probably almost no money in this budget for getting revenue up, almost none. It's all for cleaning up the past, for running the town from day to day, not for getting better in the future. And we can't do that. We have to invest in the future. We're not investing in the future. So the one thing I would like to ask all of you to do is try to get people to invest in the future. We'll make sacrifices today in certain parts of the town, and I'm sure the selectmen are going to come down pretty hard on some of these budgets. So you watch that for yourselves. But what we need to do is concentrate, free up some of this money in the budget to be able to go out and get these new businesses in town. And some of them that don't cost any money to get into town, like the new developments, what I call, the Quantum Leap, that doesn't cost any money. We can go ahead and get moving on that. So my view is anybody who can should say, let's get moving on getting this money in town so that we don't have these kind of numbers to look at every year in the future, and the heartbreak and the heartache is going to take for a lot of people over the next 4 months. With that, I say thank you very much. It's past my bedtime. Pay attention, and I'll see you next week.